Alrighty. So the quartering is angry about trans people again, because realistically, he can't do much else these days but bitch about whatever the right wing wants him to bitch about, because that's what makes him money these days. So let's go ahead and take a look at what our good boy, the quarter pounder, has to say about Leah Thomas. But before we do that, let's first get into the fan art section. So the fan art today comes from Wamo Family. I believe this is it's Niji Kawasataki. So it's been a while since I last made fan art, so here we are, Slime Suris in PC 98 style. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and this looks honestly cute as fuck. So thank you very much. With that said, let's go ahead and get into Jeremy talking about Leah Thomas.
For some time, one of the topics that I've covered on this channel for some time in 2023 and 2024 is biological men who want to take away positions from biological women.
Okay, so you mean trans women who want to take positions of women. Got it. Okay, cool. Cool.
Essentially, extreme misogynists.
I like how they've been using this particular line, like, oh, they're definitely extreme misogynists, because they have to be extreme misogynists, because we have to use language that the left knows works. Otherwise, we're going to lose our relevance.
These are biological men who hate women. They hate
I don't actually know that many trans women who hate other women. I don't. Not to mention, it's weird because we also get told that trans women do the whole autogynephilia thing, which we don't really have much evidence of. But it's like, okay, cool. So how do they hate women, or do they really want to be women, or where are we, Jeremy?
Hate them so much that they want to enter their sports arenas and take awards away from them. This is just my opinion, obviously.
And it's wrong. Like it is just your opinion, and also it is just incorrect. Like, nobody is entering a sports competition for the sole purpose of stealing shit from women.
I think that they loathe women so much, they want to make them feel uncomfortable by making them share locker rooms together.
Do you think he actually believes any of this?
Probably hate women more than any other man has ever hated anyone at any point. That's my opinion.
Do you think he actually believes that? Like, how stupid do you have to be to believe that? You've got to be a special kind of touched. Just not feeling very good at all in the brain space.
And the whole conversation around biological men taking spots from biological women is a hot button issue, and we all remember that that hero, Leah Thomas, an individual who, I don't remember the exact number. Maybe the comment section can say what the exact number is, but he was rated something like 400th in the men's league, and then was winning first in the women's league, mostly because he was.
All right, so hold on. We need to address this real quick. So thankfully, I actually have Kayla again providing things for this particular video, and she did some research before this video just to help out with it. So the whole 462nd place thing doesn't actually mean anything, because pre-HRT, Leah actually placed very, very highly in men's competitions. The 462nd place thing only happened after HRT. Leah Thomas, prior to transitioning, was had the 6th fastest national men's time in the 1,000-yard freestyle. And that is not a small accomplishment. They were performing incredibly well. This particular line is stated all the time because these people are not interested in telling the truth. These people are not interested in giving you a dialogue that is true. They are interested in peddling hatred because it sells. It sells. That's what it does. ultimately, they peddle it because they know it makes them money. They know that their audience wants to hate trans people, despite the fact that they masturbate to them on Pornhub. That's what this is. Front and center, completely. This is selling hatred. Had one of the top 100 times in the 500-yard freestyle. Had second plate in the men's 500, 1,000, and 1650 in Ivy League championships. Oh, but don't worry. Let's keep on using the 462nd number because it is technically correct if we are not talking about pre-HRT Leah Thomas. And we have to talk about pre-HRT Leah Thomas because what we have discovered over time is that it is actually the HRT that changes whether or not somebody has the particular things that you are worried about freaking out about. You want to talk about muscle density, you want to talk about this, you want to talk about the other. Turns out that the thing that affects those, the thing that ultimately matters, more than anything, are your hormones. This is one of the reasons why people will try to take testosterone when they are muscle building. Because they know that testosterone helps for muscle building. No fucking duh. Army Boy says HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Hormone replacement therapy. So they will do everything in their power to pretend that the HRT part of this is a non-factor. But people take testosterone for growing more muscle because it works. That people know that it works. And it turns out, we actually know that if you remove the testosterone by either testosterone blockers or a surgery to remove somebody's testicles, if you go through any of those procedures, we actually can test your testosterone and we can see, oh, you have testosterone that would be more in line with what we would assume a woman has. And your ability to gain muscle is going to be hindered by that lack of testosterone. Weird. It's so strange. Yeah, in the 80s, testosterone got considered an addictive substance. But don't worry, let's just pretend for a while the hormones have nothing to do with how our bodies developed. We freak the fuck out about puberty, but the minute that we have to talk about hormones, now suddenly it's all hush-hush. But let's go on. Quarter Pounder, what you got?
Swimming with a rudder and they weren't. Well, now this story's gotten a little more insane, and we're going to get into that after a super quick word from this video sponsor. Huge shout out to this video.
Oh my god, we're gonna no sponsor for you. DDLG Playground is sponsoring this video. It is probably better for you to go there, get a dildo, get 20% off by using coupon code Suris, and maybe consider going to fuck yourself. But anyway, let's go on.
Wants a chance to qualify for the U.S. women's squad ahead of the upcoming Olympics, and reportedly has been fighting a secret legal fight in hopes of making that happen.
So, okay, let's take a look and see what's actually happening there. Leah Thomas Olympics. Seeking legal avenues to... Competing with women, has eyes set on Olympics. Okay, so those are two different statements. So the Olympics... Let's see, Leah Thomas secretly sues. Why is all of this... I want you to see the difference in how these articles are written, right? So, let's look at Daily Wire's article. Daily Wire says, Leah Thomas is seeking legal avenues to overturn regulations on male swimmers competing with women. Has eyes set on Olympics. Those are separate because the Olympics already has regulations on testosterone that allow transgender people to participate. They have to be separate. But if you look over here at American Family News, and I'm just going to say, anytime I see family on anything, I just assume it's a red flag now. But Leah Thomas secretly sues to overturn rules for 2024 Olympics. Whereas if you look at the same article on, say, CNN, transgender swimmer Leah Thomas begins legal case against swimming's world governing body. One of these describes what's actually happening. The other one is sensationalized. That's so strange, right? That's so weird. Why do we have that there? Why do we even have that particular thing here? Daily Wire with misleading headlines? Yeah, I know, right? Weird. Weird. But let's continue with the video.
Now, if you've been following any...
Yeah, how is it a secret? How is it a secret? In what way is it a secret if everybody knows?
Been following anything with the Olympics, they are actually extremely woke. The Olympics in several
How the fuck are the Olympics woke? What does that mean? I love how people will use the... I have a story after this about a incident I had at a bar earlier today. But how do we get to the point where we just use woke to describe everything? I'm gonna let you know what woke really means to the conservative mind. Truthfully, honestly, it just means something I don't like. Just like how for years leftists got accused of calling anybody they didn't like Nazis, I feel like we should just use the exact same language back at this point. No, you call anything you don't like woke because you thoroughly demonized what that term means.
Categories, if I'm remembering this correctly, the Olympics have allowed biological men to compete against biological women in several categories.
I like how he has to keep on using those words. He can't say trans women. He has to go biological men, biological men, biological men. He has to do that. He has to do that, by the way, because his audience of fickle Nazis, which don't get me wrong, this man is sponsored by a Nazi, so I'm actually willing to call him a Nazi. Anybody who willingly takes that kind of blood money is just a fucking Nazi to me. But this man here, who has an audience of Nazis, who is a Nazi, and I'm sorry, I can't really be convinced that he's not because of the sponsorships he's taken from known Nazi organizations, specifically that elk one that we talked about in that video already. I can't not call him that anymore. He has to appeal to that audience. And Nazis have two things that I am willing to associate with them over and above anti-Semitism and everything else, which is another thing we'll talk about later. One, a hatred of trans people. Two, a Pornhub search history involving a lot of chicks with dicks.
If I'm remembering this correctly, I think powerlifting was one of them. I think. I could be wrong.
Yes, because the muscle density required for powerlifting actually decreases immensely when you're on HRT.
Comment section will probably correct me, but so the world...
You are so slow. Please. Get some Ben Shapiro speed in your life. Let's go.
Aquatics did ban biological men from competing in women's races. By the way, thank you for that.
Why? Why is it thank you? You don't fucking swim, bro. Why do you care?
And the irony of it is that Thomas played a vital role in that ban coming to fruition. 3 months after Thomas, who was ranked 462nd in the men's league, won gold in the 500 women's freestyle in the 2022 NCAA championships, the governing body issued a ban on any athlete who had gone through male puberty. Thomas certainly has done that, given they begin their...
So I want you to notice what they have said here. I want you to notice what they've said here. Banned anyone who went through male puberty. There are some advantages that are gained by going through male puberty. So how would we fix that? How would we account for that? Would it possibly be by using, I don't know, puberty blockers? You know, just that thing that we would use to make sure that nobody who doesn't want to go through a male puberty goes through a male puberty. I feel like that's what we would use, right? We would use puberty blockers so that they didn't have to go through that puberty, so that they would only experience a woman's puberty, because you would introduce not a ton of testosterone into the body, but a ton of estrogen into the body. I feel like that would be, you know, a perfectly reasonable thing to do. If we made puberty blockers more widely available for people under the age of 18 so they didn't go through male puberties, then sure, we can. If you want to ban trans women from being in these areas, then maybe we can at least have a win in the area of puberty blockers so that trans women don't have to go through a male puberty first. Now, it certainly wouldn't do anything for cis women who have PCOS and therefore have a lot of the traits associated with men. But you know, let's just pretend that we're living in a logical world real quick, and if we can't have one thing, then surely we can compromise on having the thing that would allow trans women to never develop the thing that you are so worried about them developing. Of course, these people like to say that puberty blockers are chemical castration, which is weird to me because it wasn't until very recently that Finland actually banned one of their oldest things that they would do with trans people, where they would castrate trans people so that they could change their gender markers, which I was told that the entirety of the transitioning process, from the puberty blockers to the hormone therapy to everything, I was told that that made people infertile. But why the fuck would I need somebody to go through actual chemical castration if they were made infertile by the transitioning process? It's so weird to me that a country legally had a fucking genocidal thing they would do to trans people because apparently the HRT didn't castrate them enough for them. But I'm told by conservatives in America it castrates them enough that we need to be worried about women's goddamn wombs. I'm so confused. What am I supposed to be angered by now? I don't understand anymore, because I'm told two separate things from 50,000 different Republican mouths. It can't possibly be that you're worried about trans women competing in swimming, because you talk about, oh, well, it's specifically the puberty that we need to worry about. Well, here's a solution to the puberty thing that we need to worry about. Well, that's not enough of a solution. We're not going to allow that. Okay, sure. I don't understand what the problem is anymore. Also, sports don't fucking matter. I'm just gonna end on that one. Sports don't really matter. I'm sure they matter to some people who dedicate their entire lives to it. And for that, I am 100% on board with you and your fight. I understand. But to me, and in the greater scheme of things, I think individual human rights matter more than the entertainment of sport. Just saying. Just saying. But anywho, let's go.
They began their college swimming career in the men's division. The 24-year-old is now looking to have that ban wiped away and in rapid fashion to take part in the Paris Olympic trials. By the way, he hired a Canadian law firm. What I think is interesting is who's paying for this. That's another question that I always have.
What is interesting about that? Why does it matter who's paying for this? The only way you would even go, I'm curious who's paying for this, is if you're trying to figure out if it's like the Jews or something. George Soros.
On this stuff. Who's paying for this? Who's paying for this lawsuit?
Who cares?
Is it
people do lawsuits all the time?
Is it is a law firm taking it on pro bono? Is it special interest groups paying for this? Because this kind of lawsuit would be very, very expensive. And as I've always said, cut it off and then we'll talk. It's the same thing I said to I say about Dylan Mulvaney. You want me to believe that you really believe what you say you believe? Well, then you've got the money, so you prove it.
So no, there are some people who. First of all, he's lying. He's lying. He's just lying. There is no conservative on the goddamn planet that will believe you more because you cut off your dick. No. He's lying and stupid and has an audience of people who like being lied to and are also stupid. Cutting off your genitalia will not satisfy a Republican. First of all, they masturbated to the porn more when you had a dick. I've looked at Pornhub comments to prove this. It was purely for research. But they will not believe you more because you cut off your dick. They won't. They never will. First of all, the dick has nothing to do with it. It's the testicles. And the testicles only matter insofar as they are producing a hormone. You see, when the human body is being developed, we have two gonads. They're called gonads. They're not just a word for testicles. They are actually called the gonads in the body, no matter if you're a male or a female. Now, if you are a typical male, those gonads manifest as testicles. And if you are a typical female, those gonads manifest as ovaries. Ovaries tend to produce a larger amount of estrogen. Testicles tend to produce a larger amount of testosterone. I say tend to because there are plenty of situations where this doesn't happen. People develop ovotestes, or people happen to have something like PCOS. There's lots of reasons in which that these norms might be violated, but per the norm, gonads develop into ovaries or testes, and they make testosterone and estrogen, respectively. Now, cutting off the dick doesn't change the amount of testosterone your body creates. Cutting off the testes does. Ask me how I know. Just ask me how I know. It's completely private, so I'm not going to tell you. But there is a reason that I know this, that somebody's hormone levels are affected directly by these, aside from just looking at the science in regards to it. The reason I know this is because people who do get their testicles removed but still have their penises still have the ability to get hard, still have the ability to come to a degree. But these people, because they do not produce a hormone anymore, they do not produce testosterone through their body naturally anymore, now estrogen ceases being something that they merely have because they want to feminize. It also becomes a need to just take a hormone supplement in general so that your body doesn't go through things like hot flashes. People like Jeremy will never be satisfied because you cut off your dangly bits. They will simply change their argument from "if you cut it off, then we'll talk" to "these people mutilated themselves." That's what they do. And we know they do it because we can look at Jeremy's other content where he's done this, where he's talked about genital mutilation, specifically. Also, fun fact, the reason the penis doesn't matter is girls have a penis too. It's called a clit. I know Jeremy hasn't found one because he's too busy looking in his basement for piss, but the clitoris is formed out of the same tissues that the penis is formed from. This is why when trans men begin taking testosterone, their clitoris becomes engorged. And sure, a lot of this conversation might seem a little TMI for Twitch or YouTube, but the difference between me and Jeremy is I've researched this shit and he just peddles it on his channel. People like Jeremy will never, ever be satisfied. No matter what you do, they will always find a reason to hate you. Because there is a monetary incentive in them doing so. We're going to watch a little bit more of his video, but I don't know if there's anything else he can even say that matters.
Thomas has reportedly hired Canadian law firm Tier and is asking the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Switzerland to overturn the rules imposed by World Aquatics. The case began very quietly in September, and World Aquatics immediately applied to have it thrown out because Thomas had not submitted to the rules and jurisdiction of USA Swimming. Thomas is not a member of the domestic federation subject to the USA Swimming rules, therefore ruling Thomas out as even an eligible candidate to challenge the organization. So the court case in and of itself is...
So there's just a bunch of bureaucratic red tape. Why does that matter? Is she right or is she wrong? I don't care about the bureaucracy. Since when do we give a fuck about the bureaucracy of it?
Built on bunk. He has no legal grounds whatsoever to file this lawsuit. Thomas's case is not only a fight against biology and common sense, but the clock as well.
It's not a... What? It's not a fight against biology and common... There's no such thing as a fight against common sense. So here's another thing. Conservatives will use the term common sense all the time as a way to discredit an argument. Common sense, though, is actually just the myriad of predispositions that you have, the schema that you have about other people. Your common sense, that's just your biases. And to explain this, to make it super easy, we as human beings have what's called type 1 and type 2 thinking. Type 1 thinking is our emotional center. This is our immediate response to something. This is us looking at a blade of grass and saying, oh, it's a blade of grass. This is us hearing a rustle in the bushes and thinking, oh, something might be there to try to attack me. It's the survival instinct. Your logical center, however, your type 2 thinking, that's the part of your brain that says instead, that's not a tiger in the bushes, we're in the middle of the city. That's probably a squirrel. Common sense is typically your type 1 thinking. Common sense has nothing to do with logic. And if you've been poisoned to believe that it does, then sure, you might think that it's logical to engage in common sense. But the fact of the matter is your common sense and your logic are two separate things. They are two different types of thinking. We have these two types of thinking because one of them allows us to advance a civilization. Our type 2 thinking allows us to become architects, build buildings, become philosophers, engage in science. Our type 1 thinking, though, this more emotional base set of things that we have learned, whether they be right or wrong, this is to make it so that our brain does not have to overly process things. It engages in type 2 thinking when it is convenient to, when it knows that they can. A lot of conservatives and people like Jeremy prey on people who engage so often in type 1 thinking, but they think it's type 2. If your response to something is, it's just common sense, I want you to just stop what you're doing, stop everything that you're talking about, and start reanalyzing everything that you said. One of the scariest things that a person can do in life is ask themselves, why do I think that? A lot of conservatives don't ask themselves why they think that, or rather, they don't ask themselves why they think something enough. Trans people shouldn't participate in sports. Well, why do you think that? Well, because they're biological men. Well, why do you think that? What part of the biology matters there? The dick. Okay, what does the dick have to do with swimming? Well, nothing, really. Okay, cool. So we go back. Why do you think that? What's the part? And then you finally get to, well, their muscles developed differently. They're stronger. Okay, why are they stronger? Everybody has the same access to training, so what's the component that's different? Well, the hormones. Okay, but if somebody's gone through HRT for a year, which is what the Olympics requires, then why do you not want them to compete? The Olympics have shown, they've done the research to show that the percentage difference between the top echelon of trans women is not statistically significant to the top echelons of cis women. Whereas cis men happen to have a very, very high upper echelon. The Olympics literally will prevent a cis woman from being in the Olympics if they have too high of a testosterone count, because they are consistent with these requirements. So when you ask yourself, okay, well, it's the hormones, and we have a way to talk about we have a way to manipulate the hormones in a way that is more fair, then actually what's the problem? Why do I not want this? Why do I not want this person competing? And then when you go, well, it's about fairness, ask yourself, well, why is it fair or unfair? Why do you believe that? Then you're going to find yourself back to the hormones and the muscles again. And when you're back to the hormones and the muscles again, you're back to the exact same studies you were before, and you start reanalyzing this conversation to the point where you realize, wait a minute, you don't have much of a reason to actually say these people shouldn't compete. Also, you realize the more scary part of this entire conversation, you didn't care about women swimming in the Olympics. You've never cared about women swimming in the Olympics. Half of you probably don't even care about the Olympics. You have an opinion about this because people on the internet whose job it is to manipulate you emotionally for money, like me, have talked about it. And so it is in your zeitgeist. It is in your personal space, your personal head bubble. Because we've talked about it. You watched us. So now you have an opinion on it, whether right or wrong. But the ultimate fact of the matter is 90% of you don't actually care about the Olympics, don't actually care about sports. You're here watching YouTube. Most of you probably care more about individual people than these lofty ideas that are touted by conservatives. And yet somehow we seem to find ourselves in this particular conversation more often than not. Sometimes we have to ask ourselves, why do we give a shit about a particular topic? And a lot of times, it's very hard to come up with a convincing answer. Brutus Magnuson, thank you for the $4.99 USD. My knots her nuts, Virginia's as well. Mash them all together, and these sex will still smell. Okay, that's weird. Anyway, you have no idea how many times I had to edit that so YouTube would let me send it. Jesus Christ. But anyway, that's as much of this video as I can stomach. I cannot listen to an actual Nazi who pisses in the basement because his wife went to get pizza without him. I can't listen to this any longer. It hurts my soul. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. And as always, everybody, insert in the video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability a Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Nixie Chan, the Oberon team, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.